Hey everyone, I'm Katie Daryl, and today we are at home and social, as usual, with the wonderful and very talented Steve Stevens. How are you?
I'm great, Katie. Good to see you.
Very good to see you.
Yeah. Good to see anyone. No.
It is. I mean, I swear to God, here we go. Going on
Yeah.
2 years. Oh yeah, baby.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Have you? Yeah, I mean, speaking of which, not to quarantine talk, but to quarantine talk. When did you find your rhythm? Your rhythm of, all right, well, I guess this is the new normal, and I'm making it work, and I'm really good at making it work now.
I think as most musicians will tell you, we're pretty much locked away in our studios, and we're other than going out on tour and playing, this is what we do. So it didn't take a hell of a lot to adapt. And Billy and I, we had actually finished our residency in Vegas just when COVID hit, and we already had plans to go and record music with Butch Walker, and Butch is kind of a self-contained entity. He plays every instrument, records it, produces it, engineers it. And said, well, if we all quarantine for 2 weeks separately and then get together, why can't we continue to work at his studio? And that's what we did. And I think that was like a saving grace, because otherwise, we were like, we're gonna just be punk rock about it. We're gonna continue to do this. We'll do it as safely as we can, but we were able to continue to be creative.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, you mentioned Billy, and for those of you just tuning in and also living under a rock, we're talking about Billy Idol. But before we dive into that stuff, I really want to get into something that feels a little bit different for people that know Steve Stevens, not the rock and roll. I want to talk about this flamenco version that you have that's honoring and paying tribute to Randy Rhoads. Dive into that for me.
Well, I was contacted. Actually, the first I heard about this was that Tom Morello was going to have Randy inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which more power to. I mean, just great. And then there's a collective of Spanish guitar players called the String Revolution, and they say, well, to coincide with that, we wanted to reinterpret Crazy Train for nylon guitar, Spanish guitar. And if you know anything about Randy Rhoads at all, he loved classical guitar. Actually, even after he joined Ozzy, he continued to play and take lessons while he was on the road. He was meeting with classical guitar teachers. So I thought this is probably something Randy would have given his okay to, and it's not. The last thing I wanted to do was try and recreate an electric version of one of some.
No one wants to try to redo Crazy Train.
Yeah, I mean it's the Mount Rushmore of you don't touch that.
Yeah.
But to reinterpret it this way in a different light, I think it turned out really well, and it worked. I wasn't sure, but I think it worked.
So it's this String Revolution featuring Steve Stevens doing Crazy Train flamenco style. I mean, I know you grew up first with an acoustic guitar. You weren't always an electric guy. Right. But when did you dive into like the flamenco style?
I mean, this is back in the day.
When I was your age.
Yeah, before we had the internet and all of this kind of stuff. I mean, I picked up a guitar when I was 6.5, and this is like when the Beatles first hit and all that. And the local music teacher was like some old fuddy-duddy, bless him, but I didn't connect with him at all or anything. But then I went to a summer camp, and the guitar teacher was a flamenco guitarist. And I remember his name, Nicholas Zaninovich, and he had escaped during the Second World War with nothing but his guitar. And this man had such passion for it. I didn't know what style he was playing, but it was heavy, and it was fast and furious. And he explained, this is flamenco music, and this is, comes from Spain. And I just more than anything, when you identify with a personality and a guy who's got a great story, I said, I want to learn this. I want to know what this whole thing is about. And then, there was at that time a real revolution happening in flamenco guitar with Paco de Lucia, who had taken it. Originally, flamenco guitars were just to accompany the dances, and Paco took it and put it out front. He was like the Jimi Hendrix of flamenco guitar. I got to see him play, and it's just, I always think that whenever you can take or absorb a style outside of what you do, rock and roll, and add it in, it makes what you do a little bit more unique.
All right, so there you are. You're doing this flamenco style of Crazy Train in honor of Randy Rhoads. And while you were, figuring this out and working the music, did you fiddle around with any other songs? And I'm going. You know where I'm going. Have you ever flamenco styled up a Billy Idol song? Not for recording public, but for your own.
Actually,
your
on
own
when we did VH1 Storytellers, we did "Don't Need a Gun." And we did it flamenco style with a traditional cajon percussionist, Spanish percussion, and all that. And we still do that version. That's been the way we do that version.
Okay.
When I first told Billy about it, he went, flamenco, Don't Need a Gun. Don't Need a Gun is one of the most electronic Billy Idol tracks. And I said, let's go totally the opposite way. But it works, you try these things and not you don't always hit a home run, but yeah, and also even when I worked with Vince Neil, there's some Spanish guitar on some of those things. And I'm always the first one to go, how about flamenco guitar? And sometimes they go,
don't invite Steve to the party. He's going to make it flamenco.
Well, save it for your own record, But until people hear it and they go, well, wouldn't have thought it, but okay,
All right, so later on this summer, Billy Idol will be going out on tour with the Go-Go's. You're going to do some European dates. The Go-Go's, 2021 was their year. People were all about them and so congratulatory because
Absolutely.
They finally got inducted into the Rock Hall of Fame.
Right.
Were you one of those people that just were on the sidelines wondering, when are they ever going to let these gals in? What's the holdup?
There's a number of bands I feel that way about.
Yeah.
But great, better late than never, but I've known Kathy Valentine, since the 80s, we used to hang out together, and I think a lot of people didn't really realize that they were really part of the punk rock scene in Los Angeles, and they were on the scene. So not only do they stand on their own merits as being trailblazers for women, but they stand as being trailblazers for a bit of punk rock, American punk rock. They're, with the Germs and all those California punk bands.
For those of you just joining us, I'm Katie Daryl. He is Steve Stevens of Billy Idol fame. You've been with Billy for the relationship's about 30 years strong, right?
Almost 40.
Time flies when you're in a rock and roll band.
Yeah, from the day we met, it wasn't like in rock and roll, you don't really have long-term plans and go, we're going to work together for 40 years. And, it's got to come from mutual respect, and it's got to come from, valuing the collaboration and these songs that we, are now in the pantheon of for our fans and now for their families, and they take on they become larger than just the two of us, and you owe it to the people that love that music to continue to do it. We really like each other genuinely. It's not one of those kind of bands where one guy shows up in his plane or the other, and they at the opposite ends of the hall. We genuinely really like hanging with each other, and we love making music together. So,
what do you have a bit of a split personality, you two, in your relationship, in the fact of how is your relationship in studio when you're creating versus on stage, the fans are watching? Obviously we all know that there is rock star persona. So you can talk about the two different relationships that you guys have together.
Well, Billy is Billy 100%, 24/7. And he's my biggest cheerleader. It's incredible because we'll be in the studio and I'll come up with a guitar part or or a solo or something. And I'm my worst critic. I'm always like, I can do better. And he's going, yeah, man, yeah, that's, and his instincts are really good musically because sometimes as guitarists we get caught up in the maybe technicalities or something, and he's very good at seeing the big picture and going, that's that little bit that you're playing there. That's the heart of it. So I really value his opinion, and I think he values mine as well. I'm not one of those. I'm not going to bull crap him about something. If it's great, and I think we trust each other that way to bring out the best in each other.
Three songs that are huge in the Billy Idol catalog that you have your stamp on: Rebel Yell,
Right.
Eyes Without a Face, Flesh for Fantasy.
Yeah, that's the triumvirate right there.
I mean, come on. It really is.
Yeah.
Can we break each one down a little bit and kind of, first memory or thought or, adjective that just comes to mind when I say Rebel Yell? Where does it take you?
You have to backtrack and realize that the last song written for the previous record was White Wedding, which Billy wrote. But that gave us the blueprint for where we knew we had to go, and the standard. That's going to be the starting point. And I think what gave us the confidence to do, when you look at Rebel Yell, Eyes Without a Face, Flesh for Fantasy, they're three diametrically opposed stylistically. But we grew up listening to Beatles records, and we felt that records should be a little bit of a journey, and each song could be a little bit different. So when Rebel Yell obviously was going to be the cavalry call. Here we go, and we just wanted that kind of energy and opening salvo on the record. And then I remember in the case of Eyes Without a Face, it's actually a very traditional kind of 1950s doo-wop song. I was living in the basement of my parents' house at the time. And
as all rock stars do.
It's a little bit lean times. I think my salary from the label was $200 a week at that time. So I was living in the basement of my parents' house, and the only radio station I could get was in New York, CBS FM, which was the oldies station. And some Frankie Valli or something like this came on, and I went, wow, wouldn't it be amazing if I imagined hearing Billy's voice against those kind of traditional doo-wop chords. And I kind of came into rehearsal that day and kind of was just mucking around with them. And Billy was always writing, and he pulled out pad and paper and said, hey, what's that? I think I've got something that fits. And that's the way any of our good ideas start. It's usually just he's got something that somehow fits, or it's never, you can't force these things and you can't predict them. But you do know when you got a winner, and we went, not bad,
For those of you just joining us, I'm Katie Daryl. He's Steve Stevens. We are at home and social. The String Revolution has a song with Steve. It is a rendition of Crazy Train in honor of the famed Randy Rhoads. And we're talking Billy Idol. We're talking rock and roll. We're having a good time. Let's talk movie soundtracks. I mean, you have written and played on some of the best movie soundtracks out there. Obviously, Look Who's Talking To. You did. I got you. I got you there. You are
classic.
featured on that one.
Yeah.
But no, truly, I mean, the Top Gun anthem. That's like my holy grail of all movies, first off. I love movies.
Great,
I love
great.
Top Gun. And I don't know how this escaped me, that I never knew that that was you on guitar.
Yeah, we actually won a Grammy for that. Life is funny that way. You can never predict things. The way that happened was that when we did Whiplash Smile, the third Billy Idol record, Harold Faltermeyer came in to play keyboards. Harold was doing movie scores, and he was friends with our producer, Keith Forsey. And so Harold's working, and he says, let me play you something. And this is the days of Betamax, and he puts takes me in the lounge and puts the tape in there and shows me, some footage. He said, this is this movie I'm working on with Tom Cruise. It's called Top Gun. It's about the training school. And at that time, those jet fighter scenes were state of the art. I mean, now we're so used to CGI and all this kind of stuff. But I went, wow, that's amazing, you know. And literally, they were little models, like, you know. But he said, I have this theme, and would you be willing to, you know, take a crack at it? So we, you know, after it was a weekend, we had finished the Billy Idol session, and we put the multi-track on for Top Gun, and I think the whole session took me 2 hours. Wow. And I kind of forgot about it. It was a kind of afterthought, and, you know, and he seemed very happy with it. And then, lo and behold, you know, he calls me and from Germany where he lived and says, we're nominated for a Grammy. And I thought, oh, that's nice. He goes, we're gonna win. This is my Grammy for Top Gun.
Oh,
and
rad.
Yeah, and they've changed the design, but it was, you know what it was for me? I'm not a big self-congratulatory type of person, but for my parents, it was payback for the pain and suffering of having to hear me play my guitar for the first 4 years. You know, what they went through. It wasn't pretty.
Can we get a close-up of that Grammy?
Yeah, let's
Bring
see
it.
here.
Let's give it some little love.
So,
let's see that. Oh, yeah.
There we go.
Nice.
The funny thing about, and the Grammy organization wasn't too pleased with me because I went on, now I don't know if they've changed this policy. I'm going to get in trouble again. Here we go. So when you go up to accept the award, that's not the award that you get to bring home. At least
Okay,
it wasn't
it's like a
when
dummy, right?
Right. So I'm like, when's my Grammy going to arrive? This box arrives, and I got to put it together with a screwdriver.
It's like an IKEA.
And I went on my neighbor at the time, Lisa Edelstein, who's an actress, had a morning show on MTV, and I went on and assembled my Grammy on TV. They weren't pleased about that, so apologies, but I just thought it was hysterical that it was like you know, model cars that you could
Sure, yeah, a Lego set, and then
Lego,
it's just this.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of non-disclosures and stuff, so I'm sorry if I'm asking a question that we're not allowed to talk about, but the new Top Gun movie is coming out. Do you know if they're licensing the theme song, and will we be hearing it again?
I think they are. I know Harold is working with Hans Zimmer, so the two of them. And the last conversation I had, I gave him my blessing to use my guitar tracks and however they want. Yeah.
Awesome. What's going on with Kings of Chaos?
What are we doing now? We had finished a show. The last iteration. This is the Matt Sorum supergroup.
Yeah. For those of you who aren't aware, Matt Sorum of Guns N' Roses. You know, he has this band, and it's a rotating cast of characters because we all are characters. Let's be honest. I mean, like Dee Snider rotates in, Kenny Aronoff rotates in, Sebastian Bach rotates in, you rotate in. Who am I forgetting here?
Well, the last configuration was myself, Billy Idol, and the two DeLeo brothers from Stone Temple Pilots, who are they're the best. Those guys are just, I guess they're New Jersey guys, and I just like immediately, we just like knew every cover band we had seen as kids, and they're just awesome musicians, and you know, Dean DeLeo is one of my favorite guitar players. So that was the last configuration we did, and I'm not sure if there's anything on the books for this year yet, but
Matt's been super busy with that. His baby's so cute. Matt Sorum's baby, you guys. You need to follow Matt Sorum on Instagram just so you can see these cheeks.
I know.
She is adorable. Well, you know, Steve, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. For those of you that want to stalk you, obviously you have all of your social media links, and obviously the String Revolution and your Crazy Train rendition is definitely something worth a Google.
Great. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, great to see you.
Hey there, thanks for watching Access TV. Subscribe, follow, like, and do all the good stuff. And make sure you leave a comment below. I don't know, just let us know what your favorite Access TV show is, or who your favorite bands are, and what artists you're into, or just say hi, man. I'd like to be told hi. We love hearing from you. That's the point, all right? Keep it coming.